Attorney General's office, which I'm fine with that. But it sets up this privacy, but the legislation and the law of it now cannot be changed. One of the things that I think is really horrible in it is that now our privacy ends at the state borders. So if you're on your mobile device and you cross it as a California citizen, your data, your privacy, all of those things, PR. Well, GDPR is really about building a cybersecurity program within your organization. Everybody else around the globe owns their identities naturally. We're a nation for a white paper.
Group calls it, quote, a mixed bag, unleash a new regulatory agency for consumer privacy laws in Patrick. To me, this seems baboon when it comes to anything digital. I am a technical Luddite with anything technical at all. But I always go back to the initial, why can't we own all, period, end of statement? To me, that seems resoundingly, staggeringly simple.
Europe does that. Like I said, most of the rest of the free world does that. And so I don't disagree with it. The problem is, in our view of the world, it becomes part of a company's intellectual property. It's part of what makes companies valuable. There's a book that I'm reading as much as it is how they gain our attention, how they're using addicting back to Facebook so they can, how what they developed has gone horribly, horribly wrong, and how it's being used in ways that it was never intended, that it is way off track. The other one, the other documentary that was really good that I saw recently is called The Great Hack. And it gets into the Cambridge Analytica and looking at not 2008, 2012. So they're two great, and it comes down to pushing you for your attention, keeping your screen time up, keep your confirmation bias. There it is. You'll come up with climate change is a hoax. Climate change is... So they feed you by...
I'm almost...
And the rest of these social platforms.
Come back. Folks, we're talking to Mike FITZPATRICK, who is a cybersecurity expert. In the second hour, we'll get into a whole bunch of audio cuts, the election. Oh, my God, the stuff to talk about. When we get back, I want to go a little thing similar to certainly Republicans and a lot of people that I see on social media that I've spoken to before. Patrick, about Section 230 and pose this question. Really, is it sacrosanct or can we change it? I'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way, where we are and what's been going on. Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m.
Inside a dilapidated long radio show featuring every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network. Go to shrmedia.com. At Lid Radio, we fight for the truth, justice, and a good kosher T-bone. If you don't listen, Hillary Clinton might sneak into your bedroom in her housecoat late at night and blame you for her election loss. It's the Lid Radio Show with Jeff Dunitz.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And we're back. Hey, have you guys noticed? I've tried to make the breaks shorter so that I play all the promos at least once during the show. But they're a lot shorter, maybe one or two promos during a break. So I got 3 breaks total at the end anymore because they're not 5 minutes or more. Bad for you if you had a bad dinner. Okay for me because it kind of keeps things rolling along. so to speak. Folks, we are talking to Mike Fitz. Why did I ever go there? That's really weird. Okay, pound the social media, BZ. If you're watching on YouTube, please hit share. If you're watching on Facebook, please hit share. We were talking about social media. I kind of thought that has a good answer, or whatever organization would decide to remove Section 230 immunity from social media. And for those who don't know Section 230, it's a provision of the Communications Decency Act, and it was enacted in 1996. It's one of the most valuable tools, they think, for protecting freedom of expression and innovation on the internet. It was kind of a funny surprise. The original purpose of the legislation was to actually restrict free speech on the internet. And the internet community as a whole, they objected strongly to the Communications Decency Act. And with the Electronic Frontier Foundation, with their help, the anti-free speech provisions were struck down by the Supreme Court. But CDA, Communications Decency Act, Section 230, remains and says something similar to this. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as a publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. So, Mike Fitzpatrick, can you tell us a little bit about what that actually means and maybe aimed at social media?
I think maybe the best way to explain this is if I was explaining this to my grandmother.
That's me. Guilty.
Okay, so back in the day when I was a young boy, I would go over to my grandmother's house and I would pick up the phone and there would be a party line.
Yeah.
And the party line, you could hear what all your neighbors were saying and what was there, and people were listening, and so the phone company kind of evolved from that, and you could have a phone conversation and talk to somebody about whatever you wanted to talk about. But the telephone company, even today, never gets in the middle of your conversation and censors you, shuts you down, tells you that that's not acceptable, and this doesn't have the right context with their fact checkers. So social media, Facebook, Twitter, Google, with YouTube, they have now gotten into uncharted territories. They are now playing referee with what is acceptable to the Borg mentality. How many friends I have that have ended up in Facebook jail?
That's me, right? And the last time I was for 30 days, they gigged me on one thing that they gigged me before, the exact same thing. I didn't do it again. They gigged me twice on the same one. The second time they gave me 30 days. This time they gave me 30 days. 30 days in the hole, because I had the temerity to reference a Gateway Pundit website about Hunter Biden's laptop, not in a post on my Facebook wall, no, in Messenger. 30 days gone, not coming back till November 24th. Thanks, Facebook.
Well, I mean, when you look at it, these companies have and I posted this today on Facebook. I said they're so ballsy today that they go through and they censor the President of the United States, good, bad, or indifferent. It's not their job to decide what people should hear.
No, and it's
not. That's the essence of 230, and that's the protection that they have that keep them from being sued for bad behavior. And so it gives them just license to do whatever they would like to do. And I in this particular sense, I think they've gotten out of control. I think that there needs to be some regulation. I'm also, I'm a constitutionalist. I'm probably more in the libertarian sense of the word. And so if there is the less government, the better in my mind.
Yep.
But I have to tell you, I think that the kids and their development, I think there needs to be some regulation around how old you have to up. I mean, he has a father that is a cybersecurity expert. I talked to him about the good, the bad, the ugly of what's out there on the internet, and let him make the choice. And the choice he made was, he went with what our suggestion was, and that was not to have a social media profile. He still doesn't really.
You're serious?
And I got to.
Okay, I got to interrupt you right there. There is one kid in the United States that hasn't been raised in a nuclear missile silo or is a member of the Amish. There's one remaining kid in the United States who doesn't have a social media presence splayed all over the internet. You're serious?
Yeah, no, he's been raised around technology. He's a computer science major in college. I'm not going to say which university. He finds it pointless. And I got to tell you, for those parents out there that struggle with cyberbullying, if your kid's not on social media, they're not being bullied from a cyber standpoint.
Oh, boy.
So,
is that ever a truth right there? Holy crap.
You can't buy alcohol till you're... now we did for kids because they need to be kids.
That brings up an entirely different issue. I had Kate Kraszewski on a couple of... last Thursday, as a matter of fact. And she is a warrior against pedophiles, etc., and has entered the world of human trafficking. She herself was debt to others, and she was sold into sexual slavery at the age of 13 in order to pay off that debt. That's an issue for another day. But
no, I mean, it definitely is. And I'm huge that go from NCX. And, once you see it, you can't unsee that stuff.
No, absolutely.
And so, I'm a big proponent of finding us by somebody off the internet. Father's home. He got his daughter back.
CEO and founder of NCX, very smart, very cogent, very intelligent, is able to translate things into words that I can actually understand, because in your house...
I do have
really, really, really bad
cameras here at the house. I don't use anything from Ring. I don't use Nest. I don't use anything that's tied to a big and on the EFF. The police will pilot a program to live stream Amazon Ring cam through Amazon.
41 years. So if you have one of those, someone that may be walking down the street, what I had to do, and also when I was with an affidavit, I had to submit it for them to issue said warrant. I wasn't granted it. So are we now to the point where it appears that law enforcement...
Jacksonville, Florida, it's JAG officials will be able, and the like. We'll be able to get a location, draw a circle around it. Pilot program will last 45 days. Well, it's all crime fighting, man. Anyway, I digress.
The laws. When I was a cop,
you could not do that.
Every damn person now today should have to obey the damn Bill of Rights. Privacy.
You and I both agree on
numerous issues.
And there's no validity to it anymore. You know that.
Our Bill of Rights is being torn down by both sides of the aisle.
As the city grapples with its deadliest year on record, according to WLBT-TV and FBI figures, 110 homicides have been reported in the city so far.
Okay, which city?
This is Jackson, Mississippi.
Jackson, Mississippi. I guarantee you, folks, if you go to some reputable search engine and look up Jackson, Mississippi in the 1990s, you'll find that homicide rate at least twice what it is now then. Robbery, crime, gun crime, personal crime, felonious crime was at its height in the 1990s. Don't believe people. That's what, again, particularly pisses me off when people in law enforcement or people who are law and order individuals or people on the left are saying gun crime is the worst. It's bullshit. absolute raving bullshit. You apparently weren't alive in the 90s, didn't have to work that crap, and didn't go out to see dead bodies on every case that you had. You weren't there in the 90s. So Jackson, Mississippi, go look it up, folks. I bet crime was twice then what it is now. And that's an excuse to remove your privacy and your rights use.
As everything is today.
Yes.
You know, it's amazing to me. One of my frustrations with socialism is the fact that we're getting off far afield here, but
that's
not
okay.
really, but what I work with and what I do, there's ethics, there's morals, there's rights, and there's wrong, because it's way too easy in my line of work to drift to the dark side. Dark side's far more profitable.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I'm helping out a friend on a business email compromise that took place through the email system, and a phishing attack gained access, requested a change on the banking account numbers for a payment, and they were wired $25,000. So here's the interesting part. Was it wire fraud? Yes. Cross state lines, went from California to Texas where it was deposited.
Okay.
So that's clear. All right. The problem is this is so rampant that unless it's a big-ass number, the FBI or even local DAs will not touch it. So local law enforcement, it has to be 100K and above. That's how rampant it is, especially now in the age of COVID.
Well, and especially now in the age of leftist DAs, purposely inserted by George Soros, but that's a story for another day.
But it gets into, you know, I get calls from my clients going, Mike, how do I protect my data from the government? That was one of the things that we got from a number of mortgage companies during the Obama days. How do I protect the businesses' information and intellectual property from the federal government? How do we do this? How do we do that? Fence posts without understand whatever they want to do. And we're seeing that real time. You know, we have to live within law. I mean, we're a nation of in what we do. And, you know, for me anyway, if the client is not a good fit for us, we don't take the project. I'm really selective in who we work with.
Well, because in the long, you're thinking long run. You're thinking down the line. You're thinking 2 to 3 chess moves down the line when you decide that that's going to be a certain.
You know, there's a lot of business out there. There's a lot of opportunities. There's only so many projects in a year. New projects we can take on.
Right.
And I'm selective. You know, it's one of the things that you know. I had a friend ask me this the other day. And when's the last time you fired a client? I said, probably about 10 years ago. But I said, I'm thinking about it right now with one.
Yeah, if for no other reason than self-protection. If no other reason than for self-protection. The dark side calls. The dark side is evil, is fun because it's easy and it's generally prosperous. And it's a little bit more amusing than doing the right thing. I used to tell my department to try to get them in line in terms of risk management. And boy, did I piss off a couple of people, and that's one of the reasons that I never got promoted. Imagine that. But I would tell them, do the right thing, always. And here's the major reason why. I'm not stupid. I can make more money testifying against you than I can working for you. Oh, did that ever light some tails on fire?
Oh, I bet it did.
Yeah. So what have you got coming up, Mike Fitzpatrick? Anything in particular other than the fact that COVID is absolutely screwing up everything in terms of hacking and cybersecurity?
You know, we're trying to find ways to, one, figure out what businesses are going to be left done BZ, before all this started, there were 5.7 million businesses in the United States over it. You sweat over it, all those things. It's a living, breathing entity. And you're going to have 2.5, 2.6 million business deaths due to COVID, far more than individual. But it is, it's horrible all the way around. And so, community colleges here in California, for example, enrollment is down
to the what I call the logical extension because of that. In any event, before you go, Mike Fitzpatrick, Jack Alexander in chat says, please ask Mike, how good are VPNs from hiding your location from the government, for example?
There's the Fitzpatrick rule. I mean, there's Moore's law with speeds of processors, right? Every 18 months, processors increase. The Fitzpatrick law for cybersecurity is if man made it, man can break it. I mean, it really is absolutely. But, I'm a sci-fi guy, but it fast forwards the legit stuff. And from a technology standpoint, there's hide your data in plain sight. I'll have to save that maybe for another standards on the fly to AES 256 and think of it as a piano keyboard.
All sorts of things. We didn't even get kindly. Folks, Mike of Life After.
4 days a week for the Jack Alexander refuses to. Politics, border security, defense, healthcare, travel. Nothing is off limits. Catch the Jack Alexander Experiment podcast each Monday to Thursday on Facebook. Jack Alexander Experiment.
Colette, I am inviting you to a front row seat as I discuss some of the most intriguing details of wealth and finance with today's movers and shakers in the world of business. Listen in and discover financial truths on a global, domestic, and household scale.
6 years covering terror and corruption. The Free Radio Network, as I team up with, is not always pleasant.
And I don't really think that I'm going to go into overtime tonight. Because I've got so much material, and admittedly, Mike Fitzpatrick coming on was sort of a last-minute thing. Honestly, I had a hell of a time trying to find people that Fitzpatrick to come on at basically the last moment to talk about these kinds of things. I was going to go into California. There's so many things about California. I'll just gloss over them here, but I'll probably talk about them in depth a little bit later. Let's see. In the meantime, I think I have Jack on the phone. Jack, you there, sir?
Yes. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. What's up with you, senor?
How much of that communist potato juice you got left after the election?
Actually, I went out to Bevmo, which is Beverage and More. Oh, you should have seen this. Okay, quick story from BZ. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, BZ knew that this shit was going to hit. That is to say, all kinds of restrictions were put into place. BZ dropped in on Bevmo one day, and BZ cleaned out everybody. And I mean, I cleaned out a Bevmo. I cleaned Bevmo out of Kettle One. And I'm ashamed to... No, I'm not. I'm ashamed to say... No, I'm not. That 11 of the 1.75 liter bottles of Kettle One. Now, I'm not going to tell you whether I still have any more left or whether I have the bulk of them left, because that would give you insight that I'm not here to provide. But let's just say that I may be visiting Bevmo in the future. But hey, I like good potato water, nice potato water.
Well, the way the complete clusterfuck is being covered in the Australian media, I just saw a headline from one of the major newspapers here. Biden, his time...
To divide America? Oh, just like Obama.
Well, I don't know. I thought the way this publication leans, it's more, they're playing the idea that Biden will be a soothing influence on a divided America, and which is how most of the media here are covering it. the fact that trade was, had that when the U.S. economy started surging forward, the Australian economy surged forward. It made us, because we run on 240, United States, Mexico, everyone else on electronics imports, President Trump.
Nice.
Because, and this is the sort of brilliant tactician he is. Now, I did see one post floating around that what we are seeing now and the close races were and this whole idea of making it look like Biden was going to win, I've seen that reported as an actual war-gamed tactic by the Trump team.
The Trump team. Well, now, in me to run ballots, no, they're not a true thing. San Francisco to eliminate police. I'm going to go into that a little bit more in depth next week. Then, on November 3rd, up on our northern border, the lock on the crazed, drug-addled, psychotic people. Oh, they're going to be making... There are some things that I learned on... And Fox deliberately decided that it would be a good idea to stick its thumb into the eye of every viewer that it has that is making it money. Then today, I heard this. John Roberts on Fox. I questioned John Roberts before when he got pissed off because people took him to task saying that President Trump was a racist because of Charlottesville, parenthesis, oh, bullshit, end of parenthesis. John Roberts on Fox said he thinks Trump taking what evidence exists before a court to challenge results, voter results, is illegitimate. Though he said the hanging chads can't even get close enough to the ballots to see and determine that. So I think one conclusion that we can make is that Fox News absolutely hates its audience, and they're aiming for a new one. They're aiming for a new one because the nukes have decided that they need to move before losing eyeballs, and Fox wants to double down on calls, which clearly were what we're seeing this week following election interference. Is when any of this comes around and we hear stories of this. Why Australia is that you and I leftist Republican or two thrown in, just a bunch of, we knew that. Before I go on a little bit more, because I have some really interesting cuts, as it stands right now, let's say that these people, well, yeah, by AOC and the squad of four, now, when they thought it was going to be a blue wave returned yet, at the leftists, 3 for the simple as that. Now, right now, in Congress, there are 232 Dems, so they still have a ways to go. All the votes are not in, but blue wave ain't going to happen. It isn't happening, for that matter. Continuing on, there's a guy named Madison Cawthorn. He's 25 years old.
About 7 o'clock.
There's something going on, Jack, about 7 o'clock that time. This guy, we have to look to the future, and I have to go along with him. I have to believe that it is definitely time for a new Republican Party. We can't continue to go on. And I think too long the Republicans have acted with where we should be leading. Thank you. I liked him already when he sent out this tweet to AOC. Cry more, lib. In a lengthy statement to Fox News, what he ended up saying was the days of AOC, next generation of Americans, they are numbered. Tonight, the voters of Western North Carolina, that couldn't have been more timely. So, let's see if I have the Senate. Now, we've got, this, to my knowledge, stats in the Senate, it's 4 to come in behind that. And in terms of the Electoral College, it's 264 for Joe Biden. It's a 270 threshold to win. and it's 214 for Donald Trump. That's one of the reasons that Nevada is critical. Nevada has 6 electors. Still isn't going to come in until tomorrow. Maybe not even tomorrow. Have a number of hundreds of thousands of votes yet to count. My guess is until Monday. But if Nevada, for whatever reasons, goes to Joe Biden, Biden wins. The other thing that I want to emphasize to everyone tonight is don't give up. Do not give up. By a far margin, this is not over. We have closed the margin on the House. I think it has really thrown them for a loop. That having been said, though, we must remain ready. So what occurred is a bunch of leftist protesters go into the streets of southeast Portland. Now, these in what you would consider to be a nice area of Portland, they decided that it was good policy to confront all these Portlanders in their homes, including a family with a Biden-Harris sign. So listen to some of the things that they're saying. That's my Biden sign. Don't destroy anything. Be peaceful. No one cares about your white ass opinion. Who do you think you are telling black people how to protest? Your fucking white ass privilege, old man. You ask for a peaceful protest, it's white supremacy. Listen again. So asking for a peaceful protest is white supremacy. So essentially what has to occur is this. And people say it's possible. People are still talking about Arizona. Trump seems to think that he can pull out Arizona. Maybe he can. I don't know. But I was trying to do the numbers in my brain. And I'm bad with numbers just like I'm bad with the digital world. Okay, so 264 to 214. If Biden takes Nevada at 6, that's 270 for Joe. Done. Game over for the presidency. Trump pretty much has to then run the table. Alaska, there's 3 electors. Georgia, 16. He's getting North Carolina, 15. People seem to think that's possible. That's doable. Pennsylvania is screwed up big time. They got 20 electors. Who knows about the weird ass Pennsylvania? Okay, so if
I'd heard that a judge had ruled on Pennsylvania in Trump's favor
on one of those things, but they still are not finished counting. Okay, so if okay, let's say he gets Nevada also for the 6 electors, that's a total of 274, and therefore, that's it. That's the win right there. Now, today, this is the audio that I want everybody to hear. And this is what you're not going to hear on the American media maggots. Jack, maybe you already played this today. The Republicans went out to Pennsylvania. And I want you to listen because according to elections law, you can monitor elections. So listen to what is said by the GOP in Pennsylvania, actually just outside Philadelphia.
We're about to do a press conference. We're live on TV. And right now we're live on TV. Van Bondi, sheriff is going to come to enforce the order.
Hey everyone, we want to count the votes properly. What's happening is they have moved to 6B, but they took away the ballot machine and moved them to the back of the building. Our legal votes must be tabulated. They will not let us see anything. They're trying to drown us out now where we can't be heard. To fix this, there's a woman who was in there that Corey's going to talk to you about who represented the city with your tax dollars doing. But we are not going to stand for this. We're not going anywhere. They are defying, and this is not the last of this.
Listen, guys. Your taxpayer money here in the city of Philadelphia is going to Michelle Hangley. And what she said was, She would determine if the court order was valid or not. And I'll be happy to release the video of her. They have 8 attorneys fighting us to see these ballots inside. The court order is in effect. They will not give us access. And the sheriff has decided not to come down here to enforce. The sheriff of your county will not come down and enforce a court order.
That's a big problem. Now, remember that I'm going to come back to this particular issue. This is highly relevant. Relevant? Did I just say relevant? Well, I mean relevant. So I'm talking to Jack Alexander right now. He's on the phone. We're going to go to a very brief break. And
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
South Annie, the radio chick you bellas as host, and C.S. Bennett, co-host, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey. Annie is a Friday, 3 to 6 p.m. Eastern, noon to 3 Pacific Network. Remember, Southern sense is common sense.
Hey, are you guys listening? This is Shannon from Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM on SHR Media. Where we are and what's been going on? Well, folks, that's right, we're back. So please, join us 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday on SHR Media, on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and Spotify, and Facebook Live at 11 a.m. on Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM at Facebook. You don't want to miss a minute. We've got lots of guests, lots of segments, and lots of interesting things. And let's face it, there's nowhere for you to go, so you might as well tune in. Again, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. We're back live on the air on SHR Media, 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Thursday, audio and Facebook Live, audio and video. Yes, we are going to do video. Facebook Live, Right Way with Shannon and Mike in the AM. Hope to see you soon.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. That's basically the end of the promos for the rest of the show. Got Jack Alexander on the phone. And I was playing an issue that had Corey Lewandowski and Pam Bondi, and they were talking about how, despite a judge's order being allowed into an area in monitor votes. This is critical. This is important because happen. Now, law enforcement, when law enforcement stops enforcing a judge's order, you and I both know that in a nation of laws, allegedly abiding by the rule of law, you don't have law. So if you have a court order, a piece of paper that says X must happen, proffer it to the local law enforcement, and they purposely, because he's going to tell you this in just a second, they tell you basically to pound sand. That's what leftists and Democrats want as the future of law enforcement. The reason I bring this up is because a codicil just passed in Kings County. That surrounds Seattle. The voters decided that they want the sheriff historically across the United States of America, elected positions, therefore they historically, again, have not been answerable to government entities. In other words, a chief of police answers to the city council or the mayor if it's a strong mayor model, that kind of a thing, or a city manager. And if they don't like the way the chief of police is doing, a sheriff is as independent as you can get right now, because every 4-6 years, whatever it is, according to the various states involved, you got to vote for the sheriff. Well, if the sheriff doesn't get enough votes, the sheriff is out, and you get another sheriff in. Kings County now went to the point where, and this is coming to California, always spell it with a K, guaranteed, told you, to have the sheriff appointed. So you're going to appoint police chiefs. You're going to appoint sheriffs. Independence, absolutely immaterial now, because that's the way leftists want it. They're in the process. The last bastion of force is law enforcement, district attorney offices throughout the United States. So this is coming. Well, it's not coming. It's here. Corey, go ahead.
What is going on in this city? What are you hiding? Open up the doors feet away so that we can.
Let me remind you.
Court order is in effect. They will not give us access, and the sheriff has decided not to come down here to enforce that court order.
Down here to enforce that. Well, that's exactly what leftists want in the future. They just got that in Kings County.
The sheriff of your county will not come down and enforce a court order. What is going on in this city? What are you hiding? Open up the doors, let us in, let us 6 feet away so that we can have a free and fair election.
Stop. BZ always says, do the logical extension or do BZ's reverse theory. What would happen in a similar situation where Republicans in a Republican county or a right-leaning county or a right-leaning area or city were telling Democrats or leftists or members of the American media maggots, and the sheriff, local law enforcement says, by the way, whatever, because we're not going to enforce it. You would never, ever.
Whether you voted for Donald Trump or you voted for Joe Biden, everybody has a right to witness what's transpiring. Kangaroo court. We deserve better, and we're not leaving until we witness every single vote that transpires in here.
The big problem with that is an assload of votes have already occurred. And for example, PJ Media wrote about this. In Pennsylvania, a bunch of military ballots were found in the trash. Most were Trump votes. Imagine that. It goes on and on. I think I've got some audio cuts here. Now, that was Philadelphia. Locked out Detroit Republicans were furious over the lack of access to that. Noticed a common theme here, Jack. It seems to be leftist occurring.
Yes, and all of the battleground states too. Real Clear Politics, in conjunction with the World Population Review, a table comparing the number of people in these states and the number of 125.7%, 106% in North Wisconsin. Turnout, which historically would be the first history that
it hasn't cheated.
So many people actually voted. I believe historically in Georgia, almost a 100% turnout.
I'm going to have much more about this stuff in depth. I'm just going to, all I have time for tonight is just to kind of.
Differences down between these numbers. The numbers come back to within a couple of hundred of those massive spikes that go 100% to Biden. You know, they in every single one of these cases.
And if you want to negatively influence elections, go ahead and keep pulling this shit. As I was going to reference, stunning chaos, the workers there decided they were going to block the windows. Observers. That stuff is just insane. Here's more. This voter fraud. This is voter fraud in Detroit. Yeah, by the way.
So I'm at TCF Center, which is in the heart of Detroit, in the heart of the D. And reach out to me and say, could you do another Facebook Live and explain where you're at and why you're here? You can see behind me, that giant room behind me is where ballots. So something that's very interesting that happened here in Detroit is, I just talked to a guy that's been here all night. They were ready to shut down the precinct. They had counted all the ballots. Everything was good. Everything went smoothly. And then it was at about 4 a.m. that 3 vehicles arrived, a van, a Chrysler 300, and a Ferrari with 130,000 plus ballots. He said he was astonished as they started, was astonished that every single ballot, like literally 100% of that 130,000 ballots were all Biden ballots.
Okay, I want to remind everybody, though, that this is November 4th when this occurred. So it takes people, it takes people a while in order to gin up false ballots. Third, so it took them an extra 24 hours to make sure that they make the all
for this precinct. So obviously there's irregularity, something that points to...
That's called voter fraud.
Large-scale voter fraud. And it literally is being that watched it happen. 130,000 ballots that...
Oye, oye, oye. So, in Michigan, these are cops escorting out...
What's your name?
He said, I asked what the count, and behind in the background you can hear applause.
Attorney, James Regal or something? Another attorney?
James Regal?
If that's what...
Yes, you got kicked out.
He's my old neighbor. But I couldn't tell if that's what he said. Find out what his name is.
Give me your phone number. Call me at 248.
Okay, so that's occurring. Then there's also this. A service whistleblower claims that ballots by the U.S. Post Office, they got backdated post. Might have to. They had to change his voice. James O'Keefe had to change that. They were stamping the days with not the day that they got. Well, just listen to the video.
Tell us where you work.
Specifically, the Barlow branch.
Traverse City Post Office.
Your boss told you and your colleagues something that shocked you this morning. What was it?
We were issued a directive this morning to collect any ballots we find in mailboxes, separate them at the end of the day so that they could hand stamp them.
Separate them at the end of the day so that ballots can be hand stamped.
With the previous day's date.
With the previous day's date.
Today is November 4th for clarification.
Today is November 4th for clarification. So they were told by their boss, backdate them one day.
Who is your boss and what is his title?
Jonathan would be a direct supervisor, yes. As of right now, he is the opening supervisor. So and this is anecdotal, carrier down in another office said they want, if it were just a typical day, it would be clerks, so they could mark them with yesterday's date and send them through the express system.
Come forward.
Right.
How unusual. An individual with... This is occurring in the post office. You and I already knew this. This is one of the reasons I told people, and I made sure that it was done for me as well. Don't put your ballots now or in the future. Don't hand them over. They won't get there, or they'll get there late, or something otherwise will occur to it. By the way, even though this is hearsay, this is called an investigation on every one of these.
Have any integrity in this country if we are just going to let things slide based on a scaling issue?
Are you afraid of retaliation?
I've had whistleblower policies backfire on me in the past, so yes.
We'll have to reach out to Jonathan Clark.
Yes. Hey, I'm a reporter with Project Veritas, James O'Keefe here, and I have information that you guys with the previous date, November 3rd. He just hung up. He just hung up the phone on me.
To any properly thinking, it's called, this is probable cause. These are reasons. These are reasons to believe that maybe not the best stuff that's working in the interest of everyone is going on right now. And I think everybody would have to agree. Then we go back to Detroit. There's a Detroit city clerk who says 500 ballots were not lost in the mail. Oh, but they were spoiled. It was reported earlier in the week that mail was lost, and I never said that, said Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey. Ballots were spoiled, and ballots are spoiled for a number of reasons. Spoiled now means null and void, that they wouldn't be able to process through the voting machines they set up at the TCF Center. So she says they're working with the post office to see what happened to those 500 ballots. The local postmaster went and looked at the data, and he went to those zip codes and more than a few, repeating they went inside these stations, they did a sweep, and they did not find ballots sitting in piles. But it's still a question mark. Oh, I've got more. I have more. That could definitely go on. Here's a volunteer in Michigan, and you see the thread, the common thread through all of this? Volunteer in Michigan claims she found a box full of 500 ballots from people not on any voter rolls.
So I have the Baxter, Mr. Baxter, whatever, had to go to the head guy because I want to see every one of those ballots, copy them down the precinct. Because they don't show up on any list. So I just grabbed one box. It's 500 names of people that are not on the register. They're not on the supplement list.
Were you in there? She was in there
this morning.
She said it's
No, I've been in there all day. I just left.
And so why won't they let anybody in to view
Their capacity? They said there's capacity. In the morning, you could just
Yeah, it's capacity. Bullshit alert.
walk right in. So I trained and walked right in.
Because of COVID, they're saying capacity
We
now?
all have masks on.
No,
We'll put our mask on.
I think it's the poll workers
They
don't
don't wanna
like us
see
there,
you.
and they're very rude.
But
you
you're
know.
allowed legally to go. It doesn't say there's
Yeah,
capacity.
that's why we have the Supreme Court order. I mean,
Yeah,
And not to let us in the building?
Not to let you in the building. It's bizarre.
Because this building is...
Okay, keep listening to this. I am building to a point. I will not be doing any overtime tonight, folks, but I am building to a point. More detail next week.
It's not a capacity. And you know, there's those of us that leave, like a few people.
So, and that was another audio cut that I had, continuing voter fraud. Then let's talk about social media fraud for a second, because this occurred with me today. I started to make a tweetpers.org where it said something similar to 89% of the Wisconsin voter turnout called question number. So I had the link to that. I put it up in a tweet. And this is what I got every time. First it said, oh, try it again. We can't help you right now. We can't complete this request because this link has been identified by Twitter or our partners as being potentially harmful. Visit our help center to learn more. Number one, is because I speak leftist, we won't complete. I speak leftist, so what that means is our partners are DNC, BLM, and the help center, yeah, Twitter helps abso-fucking-lutely nothing. But I had to go on that. Here's another story. Election officials refuse to explain voter influx. And again, this goes to transparency. Do you think in red states, red election areas are saying nothing or refusing to say anything? Elections officials in Michigan and Wisconsin refused to explain Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's sudden and dramatic vote tally increase that occurred in both states Wednesday morning. That would not fly. Period. End of statement. At all. Then there's this. This guy was on Tucker Carlson earlier tonight, and Tucker had him on, and he explained then, and here he's now going to explain. He's essentially a whistleblower. He's a registered Democrat. The guy's name is Brian McCafferty. He's in Philadelphia, and listen to what he has to say.
My name is Brian McCafferty. I'm a registered Democrat in the city of Philadelphia. Today, I'm at the Philadelphia Convention Center, and I am overseeing the ballot counters. I will let you know the corruption that is going on here. They will not allow us within 30 to 100 feet to supervise the ballots being counted.
Right, because you can see things. I don't know, did they issue you a set of binoculars or maybe a telescope?
This is a coup against the President of the United States of America, and I want to call out the Mayor of Philadelphia, James Kenney, the Attorney General, Josh Shapiro,
who tweeted that there's no way Donald Trump can win President of the United States of America, and also the District Attorney of Philadelphia,
Larry Krasner. I can't believe what I'm seeing right before my...
District Attorney of Philadelphia, Larry Krasner, by the way, is a George Soros paid individual.
This has nothing to do with Joe Biden or Donald Trump. This has to do with our democracy, and I will tell you, there is corruption at the highest level in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, that's pretty obvious. But wait, it doesn't stop, does it? Here's the story that I was being referenced to. This is from the Federalist Papers. Record-setting 89% Wisconsin voter turnout called into question. Numbers don't make sense. This is what Twitter didn't want me, said it was not going to allow me to post. Now, Jack, you tell me what's so evil about this article. Record-setting 89% Wisconsin voter turnout called into question. Numbers don't make sense. For President Donald Trump, winning Wisconsin in 2016 was not only somewhat unexpected, but also a big bonus. for his path to garnering 270 electoral votes. It was clear at the time that residents of the state believe in what the president could do for them. Fast forward to 2020. By most predictions, Trump was expected to hold the state, given the economic prosperity he's experienced under his admin, to include job growth and a number of other positive metrics. Instead, several bizarre and in some cases unexplainable things seem to have happened in the Badger State that has a number of political analysts and conservative pundits scratching their heads. Now, I can't post about pundits scratching their head, Jack Alexander on Twitter. I was forbidden from sharing that story on Twitter. Forbidden. Why?
Censorship. I mean, it has really gone to a point where they don't care anymore. You know, they really do not care. We will censor everything. We have these legal protections, even though, and it's beyond the joke what's going on, and probably many of the stuff that I've tried to post out and had rejected is exactly the same stories that you've tried to post out and had turned back as well.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I got suspended for 30 days from Facebook, my second 30-day suspension. Folks, I'm going to have to wrap it up for this Thursday night. Although it is Friday in the land of Oz, where Jack resides right now, as much as he would love to be in the United States than Australia these days. You know, it wasn't long ago that I used to think Australia wanted to be there. However, after having met and spoken to Jack on any number of occasions, Australia is about the last damn place that I would look to go, especially for its lack of freedoms. Jack, before we go and I wrap this up, tell people a little bit about your show and where it can be heard and found, and or any social media you care to mention, sir.
It's called the Jack Alexander Experiment. I do a video and audio podcast 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday. And you'll find it on Facebook, YouTube, Parler, Magabook, wherever good audio podcasts are found, at least for now. I'm looking, because I'm getting more and more sensitive, I'm looking at options and trying to work out the finances that, you know, maybe trying to find some other way of getting the podcast out, because right across the board, my numbers have been killed. But if you'd like to support me, you know, that's where you can. So Facebook, YouTube, Parler, Magabook, just do a search for the Jack Alexander Experiment or go to jackalexanderexperiment.com.
Excellent. Thank you, Jack. I appreciate it. And perhaps with luck, you and I will both be back here next week. Thanks, sir. Appreciate your being here.
You're welcome, BJ.
Anyway, that was Jack Alexander. I will be here next week on Tuesday and Thursday nights. Tentatively, next Tuesday, I have Melanie Colette on the air. And she's going to be talking about being a black in America, being a black female in America, and having the temerity, damn her. And then we might, if we have any other time, I don't think we will, we might be able to talk with Melanie, her show right here on SHR. Because if you think the Democrats are through insulting black Americans, have you got another thing coming? Oh. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to the Bloviating Zeppelin's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here on the SHR Media Network. Now, if you want to contact me, you can find me on Twitter at BZEP, at least for a while, until they already killed me for 12 hours on Twitter a week and a half ago. But I'm back. I'm just not on Facebook. Won't be back on Facebook until November 24th. Anyway, on Twitter at BZEP at BZEP. Of course, by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and by the Boeing Company. If it ain't Boeing, I ain't going. 737 MAX is going to be coming back, I have been told. And also promotional consideration by Pratt & Whitney Engines, a Thrust. You can trust. Also thanks to my KC-135 Kettle One refueling team, with whom I will be consorting, guaranteed. Tick this one to the bank. Thanks to Mike Fitzpatrick for being here in the first hour. Everybody who was listening live on Facebook, trying to listen live on you, listening live on Spreaker, thanks for listening in podcast. Everybody have a great weekend. Who the hell knows what's going to happen next?
Night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama.
Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night.
Good night, Jim Bob. Go back to sleep.
Good night, and good luck.